Hey, this story is for Danny. So yesterday, Danny, you said to me something about something you wanted. And I said, well, you need to say it out loud with clarity. Say what you want, because when you express something out loud, the universe conspires to make it happen for you. And I said, I have so many examples in my life of that very thing happening. Well, as if by some kind of divine intervention, a perfect story happened just today. So I really wanted to share this with you because I think it's so cool. I'm so excited about it. So I'm headed off to a client's business to perform a team building workshop. And I really wanted to do this activity of connection, and it requires a ball of red yarn. And so as I was planning my day today, I thought, okay, my office is right by Walgreens. I'm sure they have yarn or something that'll work. So I'll give myself enough time to dart over to Walgreens real quick before I have to head up to the meeting. Well, I did just that. It became 11 o'clock. I said, all right, I got to run over there. So I went into Walgreens and I said, do you by chance have any yarn? And they said, no, sorry, we don't. But if you go across the street to Ross, they may. That's one person. We're keeping tallies here. So I went across the street to Ross and I said, do you have any yarn? And she said, well, that would be in the home department, which is downstairs. So go downstairs and take a right, which I did. I then looked through 30, 40 shelves worth of home things. Very general department, right? Stuff you find in your home. So I looked all over, and I even thought about a cat toy. They may have yarn in the cat department. They might have a craft department. They might have little kids, departments. I thought somewhere there's sure to be yarn. Well, not any yarn after a good few minutes of looking. So I went upstairs and I saw the same lady, and she said, did you find it? And I said, no, there's not any yarn. I said, at least I didn't see it. Do you know where it might be specifically? And she said, nope, if you didn't see it, then we don't have any. Okay, well, dead end. So my options at this point, as I'm looking at my clock, are, well, I'm in the middle of downtown Denver on the 16th Street Mall. What are the chances I can find a ball of yarn in the next few minutes? It's really what I want, because I really, really wanted to do this team building project, but I may have to come up with an alternative solution. But I don't know what that would be. I really want to do that. So I said, all right, I'm going to try something else. So when I went upstairs, I remembered that the gal had said either try Ross or Rite Aid. So I ran into the Rite Aid. By the way, that's two people. So I went into Rite Aid and I said, I'm looking for some yarn. Do you have any yarn? And the guy said, come with me. And I went over, followed him over, and he had a ball of twine. Now, twine is close to yarn. I thought about it. It could serve my purposes, but twine could be kind of uncomfortable to hold. It's a little spiky and that kind of thing. And I thought, well, I really want soft yarn. But I said, do you have a craft area or anything else where I might actually find yarn? And he said, well, you can try aisle 4. I went over to aisle 4. It wasn't on there. So at this point, this is 3 people. I could be dissuaded and have to give up on my dream of finding yarn. But at last, I continued undaunted. So I went outside and I thought, all right, I'm going to elicit the help of Siri. So where would I find yarn? Okay, the only thing I can think of is like a craft store like Hobby Lobby or Michael's, or a fabric store like Hancock Fabrics. But I can't think of any of those being downtown, right? So I just don't know what to ask for. So I said to Siri, tell me directions to the nearest hobby store. And up came Radio Shack. I thought, nope, that's Electronic Hobbies. That's not yarn. I said, okay, so directions to the nearest craft store. And it said Russell Store, 707 17th. So I said, fantastic. So I started walking over to 707 17th. And it's a I believe it's a hotel. It's the Marriott. And I'm sticking with Siri because it said it was there, but I'm looking and I don't see any store, and I'm thinking, walking into a hotel lobby, what are the chances I'm going to find yarn? But I did not give up. So I finally figured out that there's a tiny little convenience store in the entrance of the hotel that is like 1/10 the size of a 7-Eleven. So it has gum, cigarettes, soda, that kind of thing. So immediate assumption on my part is there's not going to be a ball of yarn in here. If Walgreens and Rite Aid didn't have one, why would this tiny, teeny, tiny little microcosm of 7-Eleven have a ball of yarn? But I remembered saying, you have to say things out loud, and the universe will conspire to make it happen for you. So I said to the guy, do you by chance have a ball of yarn? To which he replied, no, we don't have any yarn. But he then looked over to the gentleman who was stocking the shelves with the Gatorade and the water and everything, the delivery guy. And he said, you know this town. Do you by chance know where somebody could buy a ball of yarn? And the guy said, yes, there's a yarn shop. Who knew? On the corner of 17th and Tremont. He said, do you know where Tremont is? I said, yes, just a couple blocks down, right? He said, yep, walking distance. I said, great. I know that I am running very, very short on time at this point. But nonetheless, I am so determined to get this yarn. So I book it over to 17th and Tremont. And I find myself in the midst of a bank, a hotel, and a parking garage. And I'm thinking, okay, really? This has to be a wild goose chase, because where is there going to be a store that sells yarn? Right here. And so I'm asking Siri, I said, nearest yarn shop, and it says, you've arrived at the nearest yarn shop. And then, I'm standing in the lobby of a bank, right? So, I've lost track. Were we at 4 or 5 people? 5 people by now. So I go ahead and I walk into the lobby of the bank, because there was a guy standing there behind the little information thing, and I said, I'm looking for a yarn shop. I know this is crazy, but Siri says there's a yarn shop nearby. So this is guy number 6. And he says, yes, you stopped just 50 feet too soon. It's right out the door to your right. And I said, really? I saw the parking garage. But he said, just a little, right there inside the door of the parking garage. I said, okay. So I walked out the door and I went up 50 feet up the street. And sure enough, there's this tiny little storefront called Bags by Cad. Who would have ever thought that that would be a yarn shop? But it's a yarn and vintage purse store. And it's about the size of my closet, which is very tiny. So I walk in there, and this very nice man says to me, well, hello, what brings you in today? And I said, well, I'm looking for a ball of yarn. And he said, well, you're in the right place. So I said, all right. So yes, believe me, the store goes on. Story. I said, I need a ball of yarn, and I'm looking around the store and I'm seeing skeins of yarn. Now, this is another really interesting part to this story, because I know that for this project, I need it to be already in a ball. If I were to buy it in a skein, I would have to unravel it and roll it into a ball. And I know I don't have time to do that before this thing starts. So I'm looking around at all the skeins of yarn, and I said, well, the truth of the matter is I really need a ball of yarn. And he said, well, my wife just happened to, there was the, National Yarn Convention this weekend, and my wife just happened to make a few balls of yarn. So he went specifically to a couple spots on the shelf. He said, I happen to have 3. I have purple, green, and red. And I had been specifically looking for red for a reason. And so, sure enough, he's got a red ball of yarn. I said, perfect. That's exactly what I've been looking for. So I started to walk toward the 2 steps toward his counter, and he walked behind the counter. And I said, I'm so excited. And he said, are you from out of town? And I said, no, I'm from here. And he said, oh, okay, well, and so what are you going to use this for? And I said, I'm using it for a team building project. And he said, okay. And so he grabbed his business card and he put it on top of the ball of yarn and he handed it over to me and he said, I would like for you to have this ball of yarn and enjoy your team building project. Come back and let me know how it goes, and maybe you might find something else you'd be interested in buying. And I said, well, I happen to be looking for a bag, as a matter of fact, so I will definitely come back. So I couldn't believe it. After all of the searching, I went through 6 different people, and I could have turned away at any moment, but I had determination to get what I really wanted. But the huge lesson for me was speaking clearly and knowing clearly exactly what I wanted and then saying it clearly. So had I walked out of my office building from the very beginning and said I'm looking for the nearest yarn shop, despite my preconceived notions that I would never find a yarn shop in the middle of downtown Denver, there was one there. So the lesson is, and this is such a great lesson for me, be specific, be clear about what you want. I wanted a red ball of yarn. I ended up with a red ball of yarn. And okay, it took me a little longer than I'd hoped, but I got there, and also the universe conspired to help me make it happen. I could have looked at any one of those no's as a way to turn around, but I looked at it as one more step to getting my goal. And I just thought that was so cool. So thanks for listening. I know this took a lot of time, but I thought it was a great story, and just wanted to pass that on. Thanks. Bye.